Hey guys, and welcome to another video for the Goth-Verse. I know it's been like a little bit since I did my last video on the Goth-Verse, but this episode, it is a new series that we're going to be introduced. It's not Gotham again. It's a new series and titled Man of Steel, and it's basically like a Superman series. So let's just get in with season 1. So basically the series starts off on Krypton, where we meet Jor-El and his wife Laura, and basically they're in war with Zod, who's taken over the planet, and they're trying to find a way to get their son to Earth. And right when they've sent the pod to go to Earth, Zod arrives and he begins to fight them, and he fights Jor-El, and he kills Jor-El. But the Kryptonian police arrive and they arrest Zod. So Zod and Feora and the rest of the gang are sent to the Phantom Zone, and right when they are sent to the Phantom Zone, a little bit after that, Krypton explodes, killing Lara and everyone else on Krypton. Every other Kryptonian, except for Kal-El, who was sent to Earth, and Zod and his friends who were sent to the Phantom Zone. So he lands on Earth, where he meets Jonathan Kent and Martha Kent and yada yada yada. He grows up in the Kent farm and blah blah blah. You already know the story. So then we cut to present day, where Clark starts to work at the Daily Planet, where he meets Lois Lane, who's like his love interest in this series. And he also meets Jimmy Olsen, who will be this funny, quirky character. He's just going to be the comedic character in this season. And we meet Perry White, who's just going to be this really hateable character throughout the season. He's just going to be angry at Clark the entire season, but he's going to become more and more likable throughout the series. So also Martha Kent will show up a few times throughout the series. She won't be like, a main character, but she'll show up here and then. But she mentions in the first episode that Jonathan Kent actually died, but we don't see that on screen actually. So the villain of the first episode is Reactron, and basically Reactron is this alien, and he begins attacking the city. So Clark decides not to hide anymore, and he comes out public as Superman. So Clark takes down Reactron and yada yada yada, and everything's happy. So in episode 2, Clark goes back to Smallville and finds in his pod, he finds the artificial intelligence of Jor-El, just so Jor-El is there to help whenever Clark needs him. So Lois begins getting interested in Superman, and she goes around Metropolis and talks to all of the people that he saved. And they all describe him as this guardian angel, and we get to learn that the public actually likes Superman, and they think he's a hero, and because all of these people are telling Lois this story about how Clark saved them, Lois begins to think that Superman is a hero. But of course, Lois doesn't know that Clark is Superman. She doesn't find out in this season at all. Other villains that appear throughout the season are Vartox, Toyman, Bizarro, Silver Banshee, Indigo, Atlas, and Atomic Skull, Livewire, and Red Tornado, who is built by Dr. T.O. Morrow. Now, in Season 1, Red Tornado will basically be just an evil droid that was programmed by Dr. T.O. Morrow, but in Season 2, he will get a redemption arc and he will get reprogrammed and fight on the side of good. But for this season, he's just a one-off villain. In Episode 3, Jimmy finds out that Clark is Superman. Now, then there's the obvious choice for the main villain, which is Lex Luthor. So basically, the way we are introduced to Lex Luthor is Clark's old girlfriend, Lana Lang, moves to Metropolis, and basically her and Lex Luthor are dating, and that gets both Clark jealous. And also Lex jealous, and basically that's how they meet. But in episode 9, we find out that Lana Lang is working for a secret organization known as the DEO. And yes, that is how we meet characters like Hank Henshaw and other DEO working characters. Now, some people may not like that Lana's working with the DEO. I totally get that because she can't fight in the comics or anything, but in my version, she's a DEO agent, and that's just how it is. So, Superman and Jimmy Olsen begin to work with Hank and Lana and the rest of the DEO. But let's jump forward a few episodes till the finale where Superman faces off against Lex Luthor, which that is awesome. And they fight, and Lex, of course, fights in his Lexo Kryptonite armor, whatever you want to call it, which is really cool. So they face off, but Lex Luthor is not arrested. Superman does not stop him. Lex Luthor beats the crap out of Superman, and he just leaves him there. And he's like, give up being Superman. I am the city's protector. I am whatever. I should lead this city, not some weird guy in a costume or something. And in the end of the season, Clark gives up being Superman. So after the huge battle, Superman talks with Lois, and they talk for a bit, and when they've talked for a bit, suddenly Lois just looks at him and she just says, "Clark, is that you?" And Superman just takes her hand and he smiles at her, and suddenly, boom, he just flies off away from her, and Lois just standing there like, what the hell just happened? And we see on her face that she just realized that Superman is Clark Kent. But in the final scene of the episode, Lana Lang walks up to Hank Henshaw and she's like, "Hey Hank, I know you're hiding something." So Hank turns around and we see that his eyes turn red, and he turns around to Lana again. He just turns into Martian Manhunter, and he says, Martian Manhunter says, "My name is Joan Jones. I'm the last son of Mars." And then the season ends. So the flashbacks of this season, because there will be flashbacks, they're basically going to be Jonathan Kent flashbacks to Clark's childhood, and in the final episode, in the finale, the flashbacks of the finale, we see that Jonathan Kent dies, and then that's how, he's inspired to become a savior. That's how Clark is inspired to become a savior of the city, to prevent other people from dying. But that is my Superman or Man of Steel Season 1. Do you guys have, for the Goth-Verse, do you guys have any hopes for Season 2 of Man of Steel? Or do you guys have any hopes for Season 2 of Gotham? And of course, those two series will cross over at some time, because I have a Batman series and a Superman series. It would be just idiotic not to have them cross over.
My face above the water, my feet can't touch the ground, and it feels like I can see the sands on the horizon every time you are not around. I'm slowly drifting away, wave after wave, wave after wave.